Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. If you haven't seen the first video, I'd recommend you to check that out first, but to summarise, I'm Peter, a 15-year-old hobbyist game dev, and I'm making a pixel art survival sandbox inspired by Terraria and Stardew Valley using the Unity game engine. For the past month, I've been working on the building system, which will be a vital part of my game. In this video, I'd like to share some of my progress on that, but before we get into it, I want to say thanks to you all. When I was uploading the last video, I was only expecting to get a few hundred views and a couple of subscribers. The amount of supportive and encouraging comments I received was absolutely unbelievable, and I could never have imagined so many people subscribing. I'm glad to see that so many people are looking forward to playing the game, and I'll try to take on board most of the feedback you guys gave. With that out of the way, onto the video. I mentioned before that my game was going to focus quite a bit on building up a village with NPCs, but it seemed to be very lacking on the building front. I had a few options as to how I could approach the building system. I could go for a more free approach like Minecraft, where the player is able to place individual tiles and has complete control over how their base looks. This approach would be good, as it would allow players to express their creativity, however it would be more prone to bugs and would be harder to implement. The alternative was to make each building a sprite, all of which I would have pre-drawn. This option would be less customizable, but would probably look better in most cases, and would be much less effort for the player, hence why I went with it. In order to implement anything though, I first needed some sprites. If you saw the short I posted, you'd have seen my concept art of what the house interiors could look like. I drew that mainly to get a feel for the scale, but also to practice drawing furniture as I can't exactly claim to be experienced. I'm quite happy with how it turned out, but I had to make everything into reusable assets so that they could be used in the game. To begin, I drew up the wooden tile set to use inside the houses, which already looked a whole lot better than my placeholder grass interiors. As for furniture, the chairs, tables and bed were mostly fine, but there was a slight problem. It was kind of hard to fit everything. To solve that issue, I just had to add rotation to my placeable objects. In 3D that would be really easy, you'd just rotate it. Unfortunately though, as you might have noticed, my game is 2D, which meant I had to draw 3 different sprites for everything. It wasn't too bad though. I did struggle a bit with getting the perspective right on some things, but I think it looks alright now. The houses though still felt a bit empty, mainly because I hadn't added in the windows or lighting yet, but also because there was no way out, which might have been a minor problem gameplay wise. I'd originally thought that adding the windows would be fairly easy. I thought I could just add them as another type of furniture, but they would be pre-placed and wouldn't align to the grids perfectly, which meant adding yet another type of data in my world. By this point, my codebase was starting to get rather messy. I had the nature, furniture and buildings all as separate classes, but they were all doing much the same thing, hence why I spent a while abstracting my code. I can hardly make a programming video without any reference to coding, so time for a quick lesson. In programming, abstraction is the process of generalizing code and can be very useful in reducing repetition of code in large projects. To give an example, let's say you have multiple different classes for different types of animals. You'd most likely need to repeat many of the same fields across all of them. Age, weight, and size for example. You may also need certain functions on all of them, but then let's say you wanted to change how one of the functions work. Well, it would be quite a nuisance. You have the same thing repeated in each of the classes, so you'd have to go through all of them and change the function in every single one. What you could instead do is create a parent class animal, which would have the fields and methods common across all animals. But surely since not all animals are the same, each one would need to have some unique properties, right? Well, inside each of your specific animal types, you would then set the class to derive from animal, done like this in C#. What this does is take all of the fields and methods from the parent class and make them usable here, but without flooding your scripts with loads of unnecessary stuff. This also means that if you were to spot an error with a method which all of the animals were using, you'd only have to change it in the animal class, since all of the subclasses are effectively borrowing the method. Hopefully my explanation made sense, But anyway, back to the game. I now have a parent class object with all the base sprite logic, and have all the other types derived from it with extra fields for each of them. I also decided to rework my inventory system, although nothing has visibly changed. My old system relied solely on passing scriptable objects, but this was kind of inefficient and would make saving and loading far more complicated. That's why I decided to simply give each item an ID and store only that, a single integer which could then be used as an index in a list of items. The next thing I need to add is villages and NPCs, but that'll have to wait for next time and might take quite a while. Before you all leave though, I have a few things to add. Many of you asked some great questions on the last video, and as much as I'd love to answer them all, I'd rather not make this video half a day long. Some of the most frequently asked ones were, when will the game be released? And honestly I can't say. I'd love to get it released as soon as possible, and I'll try not to spend ages adding pointless features, but I can't confirm anything just yet. Will the game be multiplayer? Well, hopefully. I haven't made it specifically for multiplayer, but I've built the majority of it to be data oriented and predictable based on seeds. It's quicker for me to prototype the game in single player, so I'll continue developing it like that, but I would hope to port it to multiplayer before final release. Will it be available for mobile or console? Maybe. It won't be a top priority, and I'll be making the game with PC in mind, but if there's enough time and demand, I may port it to other platforms post-release. What software do you use for pixel art, for coding, what theme are you using, and so on? Instead of responding to each of the individual things, I've just listed all my software in the description. Out of all the comments though, the question I received the most was how did I learn game dev and what tips would I give to myself if I was to start over? I think there's quite a lot to say on that, so I'm planning to make a separate video on it sometime in the coming month. And with all that said, that just about concludes this video. Again, I'm not going to harass everyone to subscribe, but if you did enjoy it would be much appreciated. If you have any other unanswered questions, feel free to leave a comment, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching, see you all next time.